just wanted to give a big old shout out to Paul and Linda Bell. I'm not exaggerating when I say I could not have done this without them. We could not have done any of this without them. Their expertise at Salem Supper Club came in handy when planning this event. So thank you, Paul and Linda. Thank you to everyone who helped set up yesterday to make these lovely arrangements. It's great. Thank you. Now, are we good? Give me a thumbs up. We're good to go. Oh, Carl gave 2 thumbs up. Rigging the system, I see. All right, well, out of all the speakers for this evening, Pastor Amy truly needs no introduction. The daughter, the clap, yeah, let's go, yes. The daughter of Pastor Dave, she has been long known to Salem, first as a faithful high schooler, then as a seminarian, and later pastor. She was ordained at Salem and returned to the synod after her first call, now serving, yes, thank you, Bishop, now serving at St. John's Parkville with her spouse, Pastor Matthew Berger. She is the mother of 2 children, one born only a few weeks ago. And most people at Salem know this. Yes, please, clap for the motherhood, yes. And most people at Salem know this because Pastor Dave proudly shows pictures of his grandchildren any chance he gets. Yes, case in point, Simon. So please let us welcome Pastor Amy. Thank you, Pastor Carolyn. Oh, this is such a joy to be here with all of you to celebrate my dad, Pastor Dave, or as Simon calls this, the Poppy Party. So thank you all for being here for this special Poppy Party. Well, one of my very first memories at Salem was actually when my dad was not Pastor Dave, but Vicar Dave. And you know that this story occurred a long time ago because my mom was actually sitting with me in the pews and not singing up in the choir on this particular Sunday. So we were listening to the choir sing an anthem. It was a rendition of Agnus Dei, or Lamb of God. Now, I was about 14 or 15 at this time, and this was pre-seminary, so I assumed, wrongly, that the choir was singing in English. So as this refrain of Agnus Dei was going on, I was trying to interpret this in my mind. And once it finished, I turned to my mom and I said, "That was beautiful, but why do they keep asking, 'Are you staying?'" And my mom was very quick to correct me. She said, "No, it's Agnus Dei, Lamb of God." But how fitting for me to have misheard that over and over again. "Are you staying?" My dad ended up staying, not just to become Pastor Dave, but staying 2 decades, which is highly unusual, and it's also such a gift. Hopefully you can feel that as a gift for you as the Salemites, and I know it was a gift to my dad. Well, Dad, I have learned from you why it is that you stay somewhere. And the first reason is because you're called. You're called to be there. And I truly believe that it was the call of the Holy Spirit that matched Pastor Dave and this beloved community. Now, hopefully you'll agree, but there is no one I know who is attuned to the voice of the Holy Spirit or the call of the Holy Spirit the way my dad is. He always seems to be listening and responding faithfully wherever that holy voice takes him, even to the most unusual corners of ministry. It once meant that he heard God calling to him through a very persistent robin who was perched outside his office window, pointing to a stranded baby bunny in the cellar below. And so I'm sure Pastor Dave did not have it on his agenda that day to rescue a baby bunny from the stairwell, but because he was listening and he was open to the call of the Spirit, he became Catonsville's own St. Francis that day. And if he cares for a little bunny and for a robin in such a way, you can only imagine the care that he has for all of you. Well, equally inspiring to me was the fact that my mom and my dad took this huge, risky, frightening leap into the world of ministry. When I was in 5th grade is when he decided to commute from Hampstead, Maryland, all the way up to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, to stay up late at night studying Greek flashcards, something I never thought he would do. His willingness to venture into the unknown because he was called formed me so deeply. I know he was worried all those years ago that it would be disruptive to me or to Nick, but it was such a gift that landed us here. And I hope to follow those voices, those holy voices, as closely as he always has. So you stay somewhere because you're called. And the other reason I've learned from you, Dad, that you stay somewhere is because you are feeling deep joy in that place. Now, people of Salem, you must know how deeply my dad has felt joy being your pastor. I hope you have. So much so that even on his days off, he'll meander up to Frederick Road just to check the mail at the church just in case, or with the excuse that he's picking up litter or recycling along the way. But the truth is you can't keep him away from Salem. I also have learned where so many of you live, and I don't mean that to be creepy at all. I've learned this through all the many errands that I've run with my dad, whether it was bringing communion to someone or dropping off food or just visiting with someone who was sick or who needed a friend. My dad, and I'm not biased at all, is the best example of a shepherd who wants to get to know each and every sheep by name. I'm sure you can attest, he remembers names so well. I wish I could. He remembers folks whether they are near or far. He wants to get to know you. He wants to know what makes you laugh, what makes you feel fulfilled, what needs you have. And this is how he builds up the beloved community together through deep, intimate relationships. He's such a wonderful shepherd. Now, if all of these examples are not enough to convince you how much he has enjoyed being your pastor, I'll give you one last one. Just remember that in the past year, he chose to spend his free time, when he could have chosen so many things, he chose to write Salem the Musical about all of you and all of the adventures that the Holy Spirit stirred up between you. So Salem, thank you for letting us stay so very long. Thank you for welcoming the Asendorfs and the Bergers. Thank you for being a spiritual home and an extension of my own family. How lucky we are to have loved you and to have been loved by you for so many years. And Dad, one final note for you. I introduce myself not as Pastor Amy or Pastor Amy Berger, typically, in ministry settings especially. I always introduce myself as Pastor Amy Asendorf Berger. And this is not just because I grew up in this synod and people knew me as a young child as Amy Asendorf or as a teenager as Amy Asendorf, and so I want them to recognize me. But I say that, I always include the Asendorf because I am so proud to be your daughter. And Mom, that goes for you too. So I hope to be a fraction of the pastor that you are one day. I love you. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations.
Well, we gave the toughest act to follow to the bishop. Let's see, what do I have to say about the bishop? Bishop Gohl is nothing less than a powerhouse of a bishop serving our Delaware, Maryland Synod. While our Synod office is located in Catonsville, he's often out accompanying churches throughout Delaware and Maryland in times of joys, sorrows, transitions, and everything in between. I don't even want to know how many miles he puts on his car on a given week. We are so blessed to have Bishop Gohl and the Delaware Maryland Synod accompany Salem, both by his attendance at this party, but also through the Synod's support and guidance as we begin the call process for Pastor Dave's successor. So please welcome Bishop Gohl.
I think I'm going to start going by Bill Asendorf Gohl. It is such a joy to be here with you tonight. And not only to celebrate with Pastor Dave and Nancy and all of us who love them, but you might be able to guess from my dashing good looks, I love me a potluck supper. When I was here with you for your 175th anniversary, I quoted to you that my predecessor, George Paul Mocco, said that Salem was the can-doiest congregation in the Delaware Maryland Synod. Well, I declare that with 14 tables laden with food, you have put on the largest potluck supper I have ever been to. And I especially appreciated Pastor Carolyn inviting those of us who were called to seconds. That was the best churchy way of inviting us to gluttony I've ever experienced. I would like to share with you the things that I have learned from the partnership, friendship, support, and collegiality that I have known in Dave Asendorf. Now, a few of them are newer, so I'm going to start there and work my way back. The first thing that I have learned is that it is possible to downsize the most crowded office in the Delaware Maryland Synod. but he is a strategic genius in how he's done it. Do you remember the story of Little Red Riding Hood with a basket? Pastor Dave has taken to visiting the synod office and other pastors around the synod with a very large bag on his arm. And he'll come into the synod office ostensibly to talk to someone, and I never get to talk to him, but he leaves with an empty bag. And then we find books, clerical shirts, and other assorted religious tchotchkes strewn around like some sort of Oregon Trail kind of thing. He is keeping a promise that I'm sure he made to Nancy, who asked the great Lutheran question when she stood in that office, "What does this mean? Because it ain't coming home with you." I have learned that it is possible to spread your good things around the synod if you do it very surreptitiously. Another thing that I've learned from Pastor Dave is that almost any problem can be solved over a very reasonably priced breakfast. No one was more sad when the hospital cafeteria closed down than Dave Asendorf and the men's group here at Salem. I'll never forget the first time after I became bishop, the then senior pastor of Salem Church invited me out for breakfast, and my oatmeal weighed 5 ounces, and it was 27 cents an ounce. And he offered to pick up the tab. Dave has taught me, though, if you get together over coffee and a meal, no matter what it is that is hard or perplexing between you, it can be worked out. I've never seen Dave leave one of those meals without enjoying a sense of siblinghood with those with whom he shared bread. He knows how to set a table and invite us into peace and reconciliation one with another. A number of you have said to me tonight, because you think that this is a made-to-order next pastor station, I'm like a kiosk that's going to get you your next pastor. A number of you have said, we have had good preaching at Salem. And then there's this pregnant pause. And it was a little threatening at the buffet. I got it. You have good preachers, you want good preachers, I get it. But I was saying to Pastor Whetstone, I'll confess to you, I have heard Pastor Dave preach on a number of occasions. Sometimes even when he was expecting me, but oftentimes on a Saturday night when I would just slip into the pews. I cannot tell you the content of any one sermon I heard him preach. But what I learned from him is that the way he preaches, the way he speaks of the scripture, the way he uses his whole voice and very grand gestures in the pulpit convey something that is sorely lacking in the world, and that is the joy of the gospel. I think that you have been well supplied with fantastic preaching in your pastoral staff for many years. But Dave Asendorf has taught me something about the joy of the gospel, and it renews in me joy in my own preaching. Dave has also taught me that there is never a money problem in the church. Did you know that? I know, it's always 72 and sunny at Salem, and you need 6 ushers to carry the plates forward. I understand how it is. But much like his venerable predecessor, venerable, learned, sage, wise, and good looking. Yeah, yes, and good looking. Yeah. Generosity begets generosity. Salem gives away more money by percentage than any other church in the Synod. And Pastor Dave has continued a venerable Salem tradition. That wasn't about you, Ed, not venerable, wise. A venerable Salem tradition that when there is a need, a genuine need in the church or the community, Salem rises to the occasion and meets the need. And that's wonderful. The rest of the Delaware Maryland Synod is not quite as generous as Salem. And so sometimes Pastor Dave will say, well, just get the churches to do this, or just get the churches to do that. He forgets that I'm not Roman Catholic, and I really can't hold, the guillotine over people. But he's right. When there's a genuine need, you can always inspire people to meet that need. And it's not just money. Salem also shares more of its time and its talent within the congregation and in the life of the community than many, many other ministries throughout our synod. Dave inspires that, and he's taught all of us how to inspire that in others. Last but not least, the most important lesson I've learned from Pastor Dave Asendorf. He says no better than any other person I know. Because when he says no, he makes you think that it was somehow your idea that he said no. And then, in a genius yet diabolical way, he has this way, Pastor Carolyn, do you mind if I just touch you for a moment? Of putting his arm around you and saying, you know who would be good for that? Do you know who could help with that? Let me introduce you to this person, that person, and the other. And though I tease about that, it's a testimony that he takes seriously making disciples. That it doesn't always have to be the pastor of Salem Church who serves in a particular way, but he points to the giftedness of colleagues and friends and parishioners who are empowered to share the good news of Jesus in many and various ways. I've learned a lot from Dave Asendorf, but I'll also say this. Often at retirement, bishops come with a little gift under their arm and maybe a certificate. I checked the drawer of the retirement gifts, and we have lots of religious tchotchkes in that drawer. And because, as the Catechism describes our relationship with God, that we should fear and love the Almighty, out of fear and love of Nancy Asendorf, no tchotchke for you, Dave Asendorf. Dave Asendorf, congratulations and thanks be to God for 20 faithful years of friendship, collegiality, and partnership, and every blessing for your retirement.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Good evening. I'm Philip Melanchthon the 19th, the Vice President and spokesperson for Pastor Dave's Lutheran Chickens. For those of you who are participating in Pastor Carolyn's chicken drink, get ready. My friends, have you ever sat down for a Sunday breakfast of eggs and bacon and asked your wife, honey, do these eggs come from well-bred Christian chickens, or are they from unchurched, promiscuous chickens? Well, my friends, if you buy Pastor Dave's Lutheran eggs, you can be sure that they come from only church-going Lutheran chickens that are the direct descendants of Martin and Kenny Luther's chickens from Wittenberg. You can research the world all over to find no finer Lutheran chickens than those at Pastor Dave's Lutheran Chicken Farm. At Pastor Dave's Chickens, all of our chicks go to Sunday school where they learn the parable of feeding the flock with 5 grains of corn and 2 kernels of wheat. Only at Pastor Dave's Lutheran Chicken Farm do all the chickens attend daily Bible study led by our senior lay chickens with our very own translation into Chickenese. After each Sunday school service, the chickens flock down to the fellowship hall for a potluck supper, preceded, of course, by a blessing. As our chickens grow up and graduate from college with a degree in poultry science, we guide them into Christian marriage so that they lay only pure chicken eggs. Pastor Dave's Lutheran eggs. If you want only the best and purest eggs, buy Pastor Dave's Lutheran eggs. And now, Pastor Dave's Lutheran Chickens is proud to introduce Pastor Dave's Sinless Chicken Fryers. Other farms may sell skinless chicken fryers, but would you want to eat those? I thought not. Only Pastor Dave's offer chicken fryers that have taken vows to remain sinless and provide the best nourishment to mankind that any chicken can. For the best in chicken, ask only for Pastor Dave's Sinless Chicken Fryers. They come pre-blessed. Remember, that's Pastor Dave's Lutheran eggs and Sinless Chicken Fryers.
Pastor Dave, these are your Lutheran eggs, and I was invited on the way in to present you with this chicken, which is going home with you.
Yes, if you were playing my drinking game, you need to find a designated driver. Next, we have Caitlin Kirby, who is the Executive Director of Catonsville Emergency Assistance. It serves Catonsville residents with emergency food, eviction prevention, and utility cutoff intervention. Caitlin Kirby stepped into the role of Executive Director after the death of Bonnie Harry, the previous director and Salem member that you can see if you look at your program. She's on the right-hand side in the picture. The relationship between Salem and CEA is deep and long-lasting. Salem has given countless volunteer hours, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and literal tons of food to support CEA. Pastor Dave served on their board of directors for 12 years until stepping down in January of 2025. We are so grateful for Caitlin's leadership of CEA and for her presence here tonight. Please welcome Caitlin Kirby.
Good evening, everyone. This is my new emotional support chicken that I actually happened to get with my smiley plate. So thank you so much, Pastor Dave. Actually, I did need a support chicken here tonight to do this speech. I'm more nervous than I've ever been before, so bear with me. But in all seriousness, I'm so thankful and honored to be here to represent Catonsville Emergency Assistance, our board members, our volunteers, our staff, in celebrating you, Pastor Dave, and your dedication to our mission, but also just your dedication to the community on the whole. Part of my speech was already talked about by Pastor Carolyn, so I'll make this brief. But what I wanted to really tell everyone was that coming into this role at CEA, I had no idea what I was doing. I've been a member of this community for 18 years, and I was the assistant in the chamber office prior to taking this role. And I actually knew Bonnie Harry well because of that role that I had with the chamber. And the first memory I have of Pastor Dave was actually at Bonnie Harry's funeral. She was someone that meant a lot to me and meant a lot to our community, but I also work out with her daughter-in-law, Laura Harry, and I was actually at Bonnie's funeral to support Laura. And what I walked away from that day was how much support and love and care that Pastor gave to the Harry family at that time that was very, very difficult. Now, in addition to the passing of Bonnie being difficult for her family, it was also extremely difficult for Catonsville Emergency Assistance. Bonnie had been a leader, had brought lots of people to the organization, and had been a very strong partner with Pastor Dave in continuing our mission to help those in our community who are suffering from food insecurity. And so when I came into this role, I had very big shoes to fill. And one of the first things that I realized was that Pastor Dave is on speed dial at CEA. It didn't matter if I needed room for frozen turkeys, because we didn't have enough freezer space at CEA, or if I needed a place to host a meeting or have a board meeting, which is actually, we're still meeting at your all's facility. We're really thankful for that. But at any rate, he was always on speed dial. And in fact, during our Christmas in July event, well, actually a week before, last year I was at CEA with my 3 children. They're all teenagers, so I was making them do a little bit of service work for me. And I was having them hang up the Hunger Knows No Season sign at the front of our building. And I locked myself out of CEA without my cell phone. Can any of you know anybody's phone number without your cell phone? Yeah, me either. So I'm standing there on the front porch with my 3 kids not knowing what the heck to do. So I walked across the street to Narcissus Salon and I used their phone and I called Salem Lutheran. And I said, I need Pastor Dave right now. And they said, well, he's out. We'll try to get in touch with him. But I'm at Narcissus Salon. My name is Caitlin Kirby. I'm the executive director of Catonsville Emergency Assistance, and can you help me please? And literally within 5 minutes, Pastor Dave called the salon back, talked to me on the phone. Of course, I felt like a crazy person because I sounded like a crazy person. And he was right at the front door with the key to our building and saved the day, as he has many, many times. And in addition to that, not only is he there with a key and a smile, another one of my favorite memories was I was in Dunkin' Donuts with a knot on the top of my head, having just worked out, and he's standing there in the line at Dunkin' Donuts, and he gives me this big hug and says, "You're doing such a good job at CEA." And it didn't matter that I smelled horrible, and he was all dressed up for his meeting that he was about to go to. His kind words kept me going that day and have for throughout this role that I've been in. As Carolyn mentioned, Dave was a member of our board starting in April 12th, 2012. I actually looked back at the board minute notes to try to prepare for this speech. And in the board minute notes, there was a note that said, there's a guy named Dave Asendorf who wants to be a member of our board. And I can guarantee you that your name has been on all the board minutes since that time. And we are very, very grateful for your leadership. Dave came into the role as board member, moved up to the vice president's role in 2015, and then the president in 2017. And then he actually came back into the board presidency role, or vice president's role, to help Pat Dempsey and run the organization once Bonnie passed away. And Pat and I still meet very frequently, and when there's not an answer to something, our meeting always says, well, just call Pastor Dave. He knows it all. So at any rate, your wisdom, the knowledge that you have about Catonsville Emergency Assistance, and the way that you sit in our board meetings is so very missed right now. So as excited as I am about your retirement, we really do miss your guidance. Pastor Dave always sat in the meeting and was that voice of calm that kept us all on task and always reminded us of what our mission was at CEA, which is to help our neighbors and make sure that we stay on task and keep those who are less fortunate in our community in mind as we made decisions. So I thank you for your guidance. I thank you for the way that you have given back to the community and all the positive impact that you've made on my life. Thank you all for having me, and from the Catonsville Emergency Assistance Board, staff, volunteers, congratulations on your retirement and all the best. Don't be a stranger. We know where you'll be. And you will probably still have a key to CEA, so you can probably let yourself in. No, but thank you all very much. Good night.
Yes, take your emotional support check-in, please. Now, as many of you know, the office for the community of St. Dismas in ELCA congregation behind Maryland prison walls is located at Salem, right by the associate pastor's office. It's little wonder then when Pastor Dave joined Salem as an associate pastor in 2007, he spent a lot of time with Gary Rickel, the then pastor of St. Dismas. They formed a lasting friendship which continued after Pastor Gary's retirement in 2019. Here to give him some tips on retirement, please welcome Pastor Gary.
There's so many speeches up here, notes, I should make sure I get the right one.
Don't use mine.
Your Emeritus, Your Eminence. A little over 20 years ago, Vicar Dave and I walked up the long hill from the playing fields at Marlow Ridge toward the dining hall. We had just had a hard, difficult game against the confirmants. The staff won 24-3. Dave hit 2 Grand Slam home runs. I, a measly triple and a double. The Most Valuable Player Award went to a future bishop. Leah had a single and managed to catch a fly ball. Dave and I congratulated ourselves after the win. The first annual staff versus confirmation wiffle ball game. It was hot and buggy, only the way Marlow Ridge can be in late July. Dave and I were heading to the dining hall, looking forward to a cold glass of bug juice. But I didn't want Dave to get a big head. So I put my arm around his shoulder and said, "Dave, you will always be a vicar to me." I'd love to be wrong. Dave went from being your vicar to a gifted pastor. Salem has been blessed to have his pastoral leadership during both good and lean years. Let me accent several ways in which Dave led you. The problem with following the bishop is that I feel like I'm repeating him. In the last few years, many churches have suffered division and loss. Unfortunately, when churches reflect the turbulence of our society, they suffer loss, and sometimes they feel it's necessary to leave the ELCA. Many churches allowed the pandemic to misdirect them and for members to drift away, sometimes never to come back. Pastor Dave gave firm and steady leadership to Salem during these times. While some churches floundered, Salem prospered. While some churches closed, Salem grew. While some left, Salem was an anchor. Salem is strong. A church is as strong as its pastor, and you reflect the strength of the leadership of Pastor Dave. I'd love to be wrong. You may not know that Dave was recognized several years ago by the National Church for his leadership and stewardship. Now, his recognition by Chicago is less important than what he did for and with you financially, for other organizations, churches, and individuals. He led you to support financially many, many people. I wish I could share with you a figure for the sharing in the dollars figures that you have done under Pastor Dave's time. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. I kid you not. Because of Salem, Marlow Ridge, the former Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, under another name, Lutheran Refugee Service, along with Lutheran World Relief, the ELCA World Hunger Appeal, the seminary, Catonsville Emergency Agency, numerous mission congregations, the settlement of families new to America, and yes, the community of St. Dismas. And the list goes on. They are better off, received needed support, got the financial starts that they needed. For Salem's sake, Pastor Dave knew when to say no when the request for financial help was inappropriate. Pastor Dave knew when to say yes for causes for both Salem's sake and for the sake of people around the world and around the corner. I'd love to be wrong. A good pastor loves his people. The pastor personally absorbs God's love. Then the pastor reflects God's love by loving the people in his congregation. This describes Pastor Dave. He loved you. He showed his love by visiting you in the hospital when you were homebound. He visited the dying in the nursing homes, in your homes, and folks who were new to Salem Church. He was an excellent listener in his office, in the halls of Salem, on Frederick Avenue, and in your home. He was a pastoral counselor, sat with you when you were grieving, rejoiced when there was new life, and walked with you during every season of your life, as any pastor should. Dave loved his people. I'd love to be wrong. People of God at Salem Church, you are entering a holy season. You are calling a pastor. You will not find another Ed Whetstone or another Dave Asendorf. But here's the thing. Both of them have a pastor's heart. Ed and Dave's pastor's heart made Salem what it was in the past and what it is today. To ensure Salem's future, please, please seek a person who has the heart of a pastor.
Yes.
Even if it takes a while. I know you will do the right thing, Salem. You will do the right thing for the sake of this community for your sake and for God's sake. Thank you.
Oh, Sharon Stanton. There's a lot I could say about Sharon and her involvement with everything at Salem, but she's speaking tonight representing Historic Old Salem. She and the board members of Historic Old Salem Incorporated preserve the grounds and buildings of Salem's first church home on Ingleside. In addition to preservation, they also offer open houses for community members to learn more about the history of Catonsville and Salem Church. They also lead bus trips to crab cruises, plays, Longwood Gardens, and so much more. I'm actually going to take the wind out of your sails, and I'm going to do this now. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Old Salem. This is good, people, very good. I'm sure she can tell you when the next opportunity arises to go to Old Salem. Please welcome Sharon Stanton.
I actually wasn't going to say that. I know at church council meetings I start that way. I think at the 175th anniversary I started that way. But I wasn't going to start that way this time, okay? But anyhow, that's fine. I actually am going to start off because the way I did this was I wrote a letter to Pastor Dave. So here goes. Well, I can't believe you'll be leaving us after 20 years. Others have stayed for at least 33 years or 40 years. So why so soon? I'm glad to have worked with you on so many Salem and Old Salem projects. On council, on committees, at events, and with ideas through these years, even if originally I did say no, and no was not the answer you were willing to accept, and so we moved forward and we tackled your request. You're definitely someone who does not accept no, and that's a great thing. Your support in caring for Old Salem has meant a great deal to myself and to the board. In your 20 years, I believe you have only missed 2 of our events or programs there, and those misses were unavoidably because they were unavoidable as they were funerals at Salem Newburgh, and I understand you had to be there. Okay, well I wasn't sure because I lose track. Yeah, remember I'm aging, so I'm thinking too. Okay, I shall miss terribly being able to plop down in one of those big pink chairs in your office and solve all the concerns at Salem as well as my own. Being able to talk freely and openly about anything and everything through the years has been a wonderful gift you've given to me and this entire congregation for that matter. For your kindness, your caring, and especially your humor, I'll say that lightly, that you so freely share will be a hard act to follow up with. Having baptized Michael and then confirming him in later years, laying your hands upon his head and blessing him into this congregation and into this space had deep meaning for me. And I pray for those times, and now with Pastor Carolyn leading our youth group in their faith journey, he will continue on that journey because of the 2 of you. I thank Nancy, especially thank Nancy, for all her support of you, as I'm certain there were many times your life plans had to be rearranged or altered because of your ministry to all of us. I'll miss her beautiful voice, her always happy smile, and her always willing to talk and share a few words, regardless of what was going on as she's running back and forth to choir or upstairs to some meeting. So it's meant a lot, Nancy. Thank you. So Pastor Dave and Nancy too, go and have fun at the beach or on ball fields or just at family gatherings with your kids and grandkids. Your retirement years will be some of the best times spending it with them and watching them grow. Time goes by swiftly, does it ever? And you'll wonder, how did I have the time to do it all? But in all of this, may God bless and keep you safe and well through this next year until you and Nancy can return to us at Salem. Okay. Seriously. But please remember through all this, okay, that you both are welcome to be part of Old Salem's programs, bus trips, and events. Our Salem board is an entity unto itself, not really related to Salem Newburgh, and thus we do not impose that year restriction on your being with us. And don't forget, these board members at Old Salem make the best cookies for our events that will just be waiting for you. With all my best to you and your family, your faithful friend Sharon, AKA Trouble.
Did you know that in addition to Pastor Dave's many ministry accomplishments, he is also an avid inventor? You heard it here first, folks, that Pastor Dave invented the world's first time travel machine. And he decided to use it tonight to bring us all back in time to a very special moment. The scene takes place in February 2005 on the second floor of the Schmucker House at Gettysburg Seminary. Pastor Ed Whetstone is there seeking a student to serve their internship at Salem the next school year. While there's been much speculation about the nature of that interview, well-informed sources assure us that this is the true account.
Hi, Vicki. I have one more interview. This afternoon I interviewed a 24-year-old student and a second career seminarian. When I was in seminary, those were exceeding rare, but now it seems like it makes up about half the class. Well, I think it's good. For heaven's sake, they begin their internship with far more life experience and maturity than we ever did. Dave Asendorf. I actually met him once. Ray brought him by the church to show off the renovation. And I think he was eager to introduce me to him because he's hoping that he might serve his internship at Salem. Now, he's going to be here in a few minutes, so I need to make this short. I'll call you after it's over. Okay. Love you. Bye. Oh, Dave, we meet again.
Yes, we do. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you here. Let's see.
It's a cold February day out there. Let me take off some of these clothes.
Well, I suspect you already know a great deal about Salem.
Yes, I do. I've known Ray Giuliani for quite a few years. The last few years, we've been in adjacent cubicles, if you can believe that. One of my morning rituals is the pop of Ray's Pepsi can, which I say, "Good morning, Ray." So yes, he shared quite a bit of his worship life and family life at Salem, and I've had the occasion to share mine with him as well.
From what I understand, you've been about as active as a layperson can be in a congregation. You've taught Sunday school, you've led worship, you've preached. And Ray says the congregation is just enraptured with your beautiful solos.
Solos? Surely you're referring to my wife, Nancy.
Oh, that does make sense, because Ray also mentioned that Nancy sings in the choir, she directs the children's choir. He says they both have church keys. Yeah, and he was telling me that you grew up somewhere around here, right?
I did. So I know Catonsville and the whole area quite well. I first lived in Irvington, baptized a Redeemer Lutheran church. My family moved to Ellicott City when I was 4. Attended high school.
Lots of pastors and seminarians on the street down there. Must be finished with their interview. Ended up with a talker. This library still sells books in the basement. They take off the shelves. Some good ones last time. And he's still talking.
Once I'd retired from Social Security and decided to enter the seminary, Salem began to seem like a great place for me to serve my internship.
I believe you did most of your work in the field offices.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's right. And I think that's been a valuable preparation for my working with people of the parish. I managed several branch offices. I benefited so much from my personal and professional life experience there. Once I managed the Mondawmin office, and a man came in whose record you won't believe this, but
I guess that would provide useful and valuable skills to work in the ministry. I hardly need to hear about Otto's walks. No. I think I'm still hungry. Supper with the others. Wait, why is he talking about chicken?
Since moving to Hampstead, I often give eggs to friends and take them to people in church, and I have about a dozen Rhode Island Reds. And I get about 5 dozen eggs a week, and I pass them out there in the church and the neighbors and whatnot. And did you know, both Nick and Amy were both born there while we were at that church, and they were both baptized at St. Martin's.
Wait, they were baptized, your kids were baptized at St. Mark. That means we were baptized at the same font. My dad was called to St. Mark back in 1943. I was born in 45 and baptized on August 6th because we had to wait for my Uncle John to get down from Muncie. And you know, in the Free Church parish, St. Paul and Sadia and Rose were important about this. Looks like I was beginning to learn lots of my shoelaces untied. I look sloppy. So would it be rude if I lean down to tie it? Like I'm not paying attention? I think I might just show that I care about my clothes. Nope. I'll let it go. I don't want some shoelies asking me a question. To be comfortable working with our youth group?
Well, I've done some work with the youth group and been to Marlow Ridge on occasion.
Oh, good.
But I don't really have any particular. Wait, hold the phone. I got something for this. You're gonna love this, huh? Kids love this. Pretty good, huh? I got them from the refractory. It's always good to have a couple on hand in case the need presents itself.
Oh, I think I like your range of skills here.
So we might be seeing each other again.
We might indeed. I'd be glad for that.
Great. Well, thank you, Pastor.
Okay. Well, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah. So long, Dave. Hi, Vicky. Well, you just left. It went fine. Actually, I think it went well. In truth, he has excellent credentials. He does. And he's a nice enough guy. Well, the hitches, I don't think we get along very well personally. I find myself thinking, could I handle his being around for a whole 12 months? Well, that's for me to work out. But tonight, we submit our preferences tomorrow morning, fill up the assignments. I'll be home before lunchtime, so I'll see you then. Okay, bye.
Love you.
Love you too.
That's okay. And we're back in the year 2025. Yes, applaud for that. If you don't know me by now, my name is Carolyn Lawrence, and I serve as the associate pastor at Salem. I began at Salem as an interim assistant pastor in 2022, later being called as the associate in 2023. The first time I met Pastor Dave was not at Salem, but in Flanagan, Illinois. His daughter Amy was serving her first call there, and after the birth of Simon, she invited Pastor Dave to baptize his grandson. My wife Min and I, being friends of Amy and Matthew from seminary, drove down to Chicago for the event. I remember meeting Pastor Dave and shaking his hand thinking, he seems like a nice guy that I'll never meet again. Well, years later, here we are. At the time of Simon's baptism, I had no idea of the windy road that would lead me to Salem, but I'm so glad it did. Oh. I can think of no better colleague and indeed mentor to work alongside than you, Pastor Dave. I really do think of you as a mentor in this first call as I've just started my baby steps into ministry. There's an ancient theologian named Saint Simeon who emphasized the importance of mentorship in Christian discipleship. The historian Hannah Hunt describes his theology as such. Saint Simeon held to the concept of tradition, the passing on of treasured insights from generation to generation. One way of expressing this was the concept of the golden chain, in which each successive spiritual mentor was a link connecting them back in time to the apostles and Jesus himself. In time, your own pupil might become such a link to the next generation. Ever since I began at Salem, I feel like we've been forming that golden chain. Your mentorship began from my ordination, when I had these wonderful Bible readings that I had chosen for the ordination, and Pastor Dave told me, I'm actually ignoring what you chose for the ordination. I'm just going to preach on my own thing, which was fine. And but you ended up really preaching on the concept of servant leadership, that to be a leader in the church really means to be a servant. And from that sermon on, I thought about that as my own way of thinking about leadership in the church, and really from that sermon on, you've been mentoring me. Your mentorship through casual conversations over coffee, through worshiping together, through program planning, through council meetings, through your preaching, through your presence, through it all, has informed my ministry and forged a link between us. I feel so blessed to be a part of your golden chain. Wherever I go in ordained ministry, your insights and theology and ministry will be a part of my own. Now, that's true of me as a pastor, but it's also true of everyone in this room as a part of the priesthood of all believers. You, Pastor Dave, have inspired, taught, served, and guided these folks, forging a golden chain between us all. Raise your hand if you've learned something new about God through Pastor Dave. Raise your hand if Pastor Dave's generosity has inspired your generosity. Raise your hand if Pastor Dave's presence has comforted you in a difficult time. Raise your hand if you pick up trash on the sidewalk because you've seen him do it. Okay, there's less people here, but you can start doing it now. My first day at Salem, we're walking down Frederick Road, and I just see him like grabbing. And ever since then, I've done it too. You can do it too. Raise your hand if Pastor Dave has baptized you or your children or grandchildren. Raise your hand if Pastor Dave has communed you. Raise your hand if you know more about chickens than you did before you met Pastor Dave. I didn't even know there were like different kinds of chickens. Wild. Oh my gosh. Raise your hand if Pastor Dave has preached a sermon that you'll continue to carry in your heart. And finally, raise your hand if Pastor Dave has embodied the love of Christ for you. Look at this golden chain connecting us to you, to Ed, to Lodek and Newbie and all the senior pastors of Salem, to the founders of the church and the generation before, all the way up to the apostles and to Christ. And look at this golden chain connecting you into the future, to the next generation of Salem disciples, where your ministry, love, and teachings will carry on. Yes, your work at Salem is ending, but your ministry lives on. Thank you, Pastor Dave. Last but certainly not least, Ed Whetstone is the pastor emeritus, serving as the senior pastor of Salem for 33 years. Great. He and Pastor Dave worked together for the last 3 years of his tenure, which I guess was enough to make him retire in 2010. When I emailed Pastor Ed asking him to speak at this party, he replied, quote, "Yes. Actually, there are several things I've waited a long time to get off my chest." So let's not make him wait any longer, but welcome Pastor Ed.
A lot of speeches here. A lot of love. In 2004, Salem launched the RSVP appeal, Renew, Sustain, Venture, Proclaim. It was a 4-year, $500,000 campaign with a number of goals. Venture included the proposal to set aside $30,000 each year in preparation for calling our first associate pastor in nearly a half century. At that point, Dave was nowhere near a twinkle in anyone's eye. But it wasn't long into your internship in 2005 when it was quite apparent to me that you had the heart of a pastor, and you were ready-made for loving and serving God at Salem. It wasn't long at all, it might have been days. By the end of your internship, I was eager for your call. I was impatient for you to complete that last semester of seminary. And I was far from alone. At the call committee's first meeting in the Mary Martha room, I recall Ed Orser saying, "I'll be glad for us to call an associate pastor, as long as it's Dave Asendorf." You were unanimously called December 2006, ordained in January, and installed in February. We'd had a handful of interns across the years, and for the previous decade, gifted and dedicated lay assistants, and all along strong leadership, many of you. But after 35 years as serving as the sole pastor of a parish, it was exhilarating, absolutely exhilarating, to have a colleague in ministry. You were always ready to do whatever was helpful, and do it with thought and care and kindness. I was enriched by your honest, earnest, and faithful preaching. We had long conversations about Salem's mission, concerns, needs, opportunities. I felt we enhanced each other's strengths and often complemented each other's weaknesses. I valued your readiness and talents for serving in the community and in the wider church, much of which has been attested today. And there was this newfound boom of taking turns, the task of preaching, of home communions, of committee meetings, of teaching confirmation. Always, always, the very best was any and every opportunity for collaboration on something. And just to say it straight out, we also had fun. In 2008, Salem extended you a call to serve as our co-pastor. Truth was, you were co-pastor already. Serving together was a rich, energizing, joyous gift those last several years in full-time parish ministry. And I realized in some soon time it would be God's gift for my leading Salem, something that was never easy for me to consider. In 2010, 39 years after my ordination and over 32 years at Salem, it was time. I'm forever grateful for the gift of leading with such confidence that by the grace of God, Salem would, more than ever, live in the love of Christ, be a committed service of the community and of the world, an advocate, an instrument of social justice, faithful to its heritage and open to the future, and a mainstay in the wider church, confident that it would remain beloved, as it surely has, splendidly, through all the changes, challenges, choices of these last 15 years. Years very difficult, as Gary described, for the church everywhere. A further gift was your invitation that Vicki and I returned to Salem, a couple necessary years after my retirement, years that helped me let go, reorient my thinking, and be comfortable in the pew, and remaining there, ever grateful to worship and work in such a loving, thriving, and benevolent parish. As someone who believes he's fairly good with words, I was vaguely looking forward to this opportunity to express my feelings and thoughts at your retirement. I dallied with phrasings that were clever, or profound, or poetic, or comic. But I just couldn't find traction. Yesterday I gave up and just gave my best effort to say it plain. There was this line from one of our hymns that came to mind every time I tried to put together my words. We sing it every Good Friday, and it's appropriate for me to apologize for appropriating so profound a sentence for this very personal intent. Words that the medieval author meant to describe his bewilderment and giving thanks for the unshakable, overwhelming, sacrificial, undying love of God in Jesus Christ. My intent is far, far smaller in scale, but immense to me. This is that hymnic line. What language shall I borrow to thank thee, dearest friend? I thank you more than these words can say. We all thank you, each one of us, each one with our own stories, our reasons, our memories. And we give thanks to God.
Well, Pastor Dave just got compared to Jesus, which I don't know if I was expecting that tonight. I should have expected it. Now comes to the fun part where Pastor Dave gets a bunch of gifts. Paul Bell, is he in the room? Great, you know what to do. Great, please. Paul Bell has a gift on behalf of the Salem congregation.
Thank you, Pastor Carolyn. Before I give this gift to Pastor Dave, I wanted to tell you a quick story. When he was being ordained at St. Mark's, the choirs got together and did a special song at his ordination. And we had to rehearse. And I remember being up there one night, rehearsing, and I was waiting for one reason or another, and I happened to be talking to the pastor at St. Mark's. And the pastor was commiserating He said, well, we're going to miss Dave. We really are. And I know he has to go. He's going to be your pastor. But please don't take Nancy. That's actually what he said. Pastor Dave, you've been really, really wonderful. It's been wonderful being one of your congregants. And on behalf of the church council, we have a small memento. And if you'll come over here, I'll show it to you.
Not a chicken, please.
No chickens in this memento. It's something you can put on your wall. Hopefully Nancy will let you. There's a picture of Salem in here, so in case you forget, you can remember it. And there's a few words at the bottom. I had something to do with those. The church council corrected my mistakes very nicely, and I want to read them for you. To Pastor David K. Asendorf, from his grateful congregants, on the occasion of his retirement as senior pastor at Salem. Dear Pastor Dave, we cannot adequately express to you our thanks and gratitude for your many years of faithful service. You have been our leader in Christ, our pastor, our teacher, our counselor, and our friend ever since the first day at Salem. We wish you and Nancy a happy, healthy, and well-deserved retirement. We will never forget our beloved pastor and our wonderful friend.
I now invite Mary Miller, thank you, Mary Miller, to come forward with her gift. I don't know why I said it like that, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sure you look out here too and you see lots of beautiful people and lots of beautiful colors, don't you? And on behalf of our quilting group tonight, if those who are here that are a part of our quilting group, would you please stand? There's a few. I just look at this congregation and I think of it a lot like a quilt. You know, there's so many different colors, there's different people, there's different genders, there's different ages, just like the fabric that is brought to us for our quilting group. And it's all brought together and it's made something so beautiful. But it takes the thread, which is you, that binds it all together to make it beautiful. And that's what you've done at First Salem. So on behalf of our quilting group, now this is the back. Sure. The back of it is signed by all of you, and if you have not signed it yet, please, I think we can still leave it up throughout the weeks, not only here, but throughout the weeks, and you may sign it. If you turn it around, you will see some of the emblems of Salem, which was done by Trish Morgan and quilted by our group. So you can't forget us.
No.
You can't. It is a joy to make. Since I'm here, can I stay up here a minute?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
I would like to see your beautiful wife. What's with Nancy? Now, those of you that are a part of our Salem choir, will you please stand? Oh, come on, there's some of you here. Yes, okay. I had everything written down here to read, and I haven't read a darn thing, but I'm proud that I didn't have to. But on behalf of our choir, and Paul Bell, do you remember when Dave came, that we said, we need to pray, we need a good soprano. And we prayed for you, and we got you. So Nancy, on behalf of the choir, we would like to present you a gift also. And it's many, many nights out at a beautiful dinner place that you two can go and enjoy, or take your lovely family and enjoy a lot of dinners together. We love you.
Guy Davis, can you come forward?
Well, some of you may know that I take photos every once in a while, and I probably have several thousand of Pastor Dave and all the things that he's done. So I'm going to put them together in a photo book. I'll do his work at Salem for past 20 years. So actually this is a dummy because I'm going to wait until he actually retires and I get pictures of his last sermon, but this is a placeholder for him. So thank you, Dave.
Church Council President Emily DeVella, would you mind stepping forward? Pastor Dave, you gotta come back. Okay.
All right, hi, I'm Emily DeVella. I wasn't gonna say any words, but I think I have to say a couple words. Seeing all the chickens around tonight reminds me of one of my favorite animated characters, who is Hey Hey from Moana. And if you're familiar with Moana at all, it's about this girl that goes on a journey, and she has this chicken sidekick, right? And he is not the brightest of chickens, and she goes out in a boat on her journey. Unbeknownst to her and unbeknownst to Hey Hey, he has stowed away in this boat. He does not know he's on a boat. And the next morning, she discovers him and picks him up and puts him on the deck of the boat. And he looks around with this bewildered look in his eyes and lets out this ridiculous scream because he has no idea what to do with himself. And so I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about Salem and Pastor Dave, and I had this vision in my mind of all of us showing up in July, looking around Salem, and realizing that Pastor Dave is not here, and letting out a ridiculous scream because we don't know what to do with ourselves. But spoiler alert, Hey Hey turns out okay in the end, and I truly believe that Salem will too, but we will very much miss our Pastor Dave. Thank you so much for all of your service, and we have been truly blessed at Council to have your depth of knowledge and to bring all of your insights to Council and your guidance, and so we've been very lucky to have you. I was actually joking around with my table tonight. My dad won the chicken for our table, and I thought, you know what, maybe I have to borrow this and bring it to council meetings and stick it where Pastor Dave usually sits so that we have a reminder of him. Because, you know. However, I wasn't called up here to tell you silly anecdotes. I was called up here to present a gift, which is a citation from the governor of the state of Maryland to Pastor David Asendorf. And I read, "Greetings. be it known that on behalf of the citizens of the state, in recognition of the 20 years of dedicated and outstanding service you have made on behalf of the Salem Evangelical Lutheran Church, in honor of the high level of professionalism, expertise, and commitment you have demonstrated throughout your distinguished career, and as the people of Maryland join in expressing our great respect, admiration, and sincere best wishes on the occasion of your retirement, we are pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation. It's in a folder, so you can choose to hang it up the wall or not.
Megan? Yes.
Good afternoon. Greetings, everyone. Pastor Dave, you are a blessing in my life since 2008. You baptized me July 12, 2015. That was a major role. I'm grateful to have you in my life. Everybody here at Salem is honored and loved you. At this point in time, I would like to give you this gift that is full of signatures that people that love and care for you. Nancy, you're a blessing as well in my life. I am grateful to have you as a Salem choir member. You're an amazing person, beautiful, strong soprano voice, which has guided me. And I am so grateful to both of you. And I would like to present you with that. Now you can, and you should recognize all the pictures.
Great. Enjoy reading this.
Retirement reading. Finally, in recognition that just recognition of Nancy, more generally, you're amazing. Please, Vicki and Min, I invite you forward. And Nancy too, please, and thank you.
So I just wanted to say a few words before we give Nancy a gift. It's not always easy being the pastor's spouse. There might be certain expectations or stereotypes about a pastor's spouse and how they should behave. When I first met Nancy, we were worshiping at Patapsco State Park back when Salem had annual picnics there. Dave had just started as our intern, so Nancy was there with her children, Nick and Amy. She was sitting at the table in front of me, so it was easy to hear her beautiful singing and see her friendly smile throughout the service. I could tell then that she was going to be a welcome and valuable addition to the Salem family. At some point during that internship year, I recall a conversation with Nancy about where Dave might possibly serve as pastor. I asked her if she had any preferences, and she responded, "Oh, I'll follow Dave anywhere." She did. Those words warm my heart and affirm my thoughts that Nancy would be a true gift to any congregation in which Dave would serve. When Dave became Salem's associate pastor, Nancy immediately embraced her new role as the pastor's wife, or as my sister says, the First Lady. She jumped right into the senior choir. You'll always be first. She jumped right into the senior choir, the bell choir, helped with receptions, took meals to people, attended all the Salem gatherings, was so patient and understanding of Dave's long days, and just seemed to fit perfectly into the usual role of the pastor's wife. But then I discovered another side of Nancy. It happened the day Nancy appeared in public just wearing a slip. Yup, there she was in front of God and hundreds of people wearing a slip. Just when I thought I had broken the mold as the pastor's wife by teaching human sexuality to the confirmands, Nancy topped me. At least I was always fully clothed. I realized then that Nancy takes her role on stage just as seriously as she takes her role as a servant of God. In her slip appearance, she was on stage playing the role of Francesca Johnson in the production, The Bridges of Madison County. Nancy doesn't do anything halfway. She throws her whole self into anything she undertakes. That said, you can imagine my concern when Ed and I recently attended a play that Nancy was in entitled Love, Loss, and What I Wore. When she sweetly whispered to me beforehand, "You need to pretend I'm not married to Dave when you see the play." My first thought was, oh, please, God, let her keep her clothes on. Fortunately, she did. Thank you, our dear Nancy, for all the talents you've brought to Salem, all the ways you've enriched our lives, and all the love you've given to us, and for being the true force behind Dave's success.
So to express how much we love your fabulous self, the council and the Salem community has prepared a small gift for you. It's a gift card to hit the Hippodrome. We hope you enjoy it. You can take it or not.
So before I introduce the reason we're all here, as a gift, another kind of gift giving, if your glass, underneath your glass has a sticker, that is the sign that you can take home the centerpieces. So lovingly prepared by Dottie Bobart. And similar rules, if you don't want the centerpiece, give that to someone who does, but they're really beautiful, so I would take it. I don't have a sticker, but I'd take it. Anyway, I prepared introductions for everyone but you, Pastor Dave. That's because we all know why we're here. We all know the just fabulous, faithful man of God who has shepherded this congregation for 20 years. And without further ado, please welcome Pastor Dave.
Thank you, Pastor Carolyn, and thank you all for being here this evening. It really means so very much to me. I can't even really express it. Thank you for bringing all the delicious food that we all enjoyed together, and And thanks for the party planners, for Linda and Paul Bell, and for Dottie Bogard and Julia Graham and Sue O'Connor and Pastor Carolyn. And for getting the scrumptious cakes, thank you, Vicki Whetstone. And thanks for our techies. Where are they? Joey Morgan and Paul Timmel and Amanda Yerke. Yay, yay. And for the skit writers, Guy and Paul, and the performers, Sue and Tim and Pastor Ed. Thank you, I guess. I guess thank you. And for all these wonderful gifts. This is just fabulous. It's great. Thank you, thank you. And especially for our guest speakers, I'll have to share these remarks with my daughter. Pastor Amy had to leave. The baby was at our house with a babysitter, and I think it was time for them to go. But you know, when Amy was an undergrad at Muhlenberg College, and Nancy and I would often take turns taking her or picking her up from college for holidays and then returning her. And after having spent more than 2 hours on the road by myself, and I would get there and we would get in the car, and I was really eager for conversation, and usually she was sound asleep by the time we got to the highway. But there was one occasion when she stayed awake, and she was sharing with me about one of her classmates who was discerning a call to ordained ministry. Now, I knew this classmate very well, and I was kind of bold, and I said, you know, I'm not so sure that she has the right gifts. But you know, Amy, there's someone that I do know that I think has the gifts, and that would be you. And then she said to me, well, Dad, I'm kind of ahead of you on that one, and I've been praying on that and discerning that. And so Nancy and I've been so very blessed that Amy pursued that call, and so it began. And we are so happy that she and Matthew, with the aid of our bishop, was able to return east here and be so close by. Nancy and I don't have to hop on an airplane. And I'm glad too that she came east, because she just may have nudged her big brother Nick and her wonderful sister-in-law Christy and their children to follow them very soon after. So we're so blessed too, Nick, that you and your family are here. Your mom and I are really, really happy. For Bishop Gold, I know everyone says this, you know, thank you for, you know, you're so busy. If you go into Bishop Gold's Facebook site, I will caution you, after you read usually his Sunday evening entry, you'll be breathless. You'll be looking for oxygen because of all the things that he's doing. But we really do appreciate your time here. You know, when Bishop Gold first visited Salem, can you hold this a minute, please? He presented me with a book, and I just want to read the inscription for you. It says, "Dearest Dave, other than Holy Scripture, this book is largely responsible for me answering the call to be bishop. Fondly, Bill." The book is entitled, "How to Become a Bishop Without Being Religious." It's by Charles Merrill Smith, and I would like to present it to Pastor Carolyn. It might come in handy. But seriously, Bill, thank you for all of your support over these years. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For Caitlin Kirby, thank you for being here. Caitlin, you're a brave person to endure all of this. With confidence, I can speak for the Salem congregation that this congregation is so appreciative of your leadership of the Catonsville Emergency Assistance. You mentioned you fill big shoes. Well, you have filled them big time, and and your outstanding leadership has strengthened the CEA organization, and you're making such a positive difference in this Catonsville community. So thank you. And please don't believe any of the stuff they've said about me tonight this evening. Okay? For Pastor Gary Rickel, every pastor needs a pastor, and I was blessed that Pastor Rickel was my pastor until his abrupt retirement in 2019 when he and Liz moved to Athens, Georgia. I've been missing you both very much. And you know, they left in such a frantic hurry, if you remember that. I had a garage filled with their leftover furniture for I don't know how long. And Liz assured me that despite the rampant rumors, they were not leaving town to avoid their creditors. After being in Athens a few months, Gary shared with me that he was so disappointed that he had been hoping that he could volunteer for seafarers ministry at the port. What port, I asked. That's exactly it, he said. There's no port here in Athens. I thought we were moving to Greece, not Georgia. So listen, Gary, you will always be fondly remembered by this congregation. We're still cleaning up your desk down there in the St. Dismas office. For Sharon Stanton, and I'm serious here now, I have some breaking news to share with this congregation and the community. You may be aware the Catonsville Arts Guild will be placing about a dozen historical markers along Frederick Road with silhouettes of a person pointing to a specific historic site. They're planning to place one right in front of Salem. This is being funded primarily by monies from the former Catonsville Historical Society, which, by the way, Sharon Stanton was president of for some years ago. It's supported by a variety of organizations, including Historic Old Salem, Inc., which, as you know, by the way, Sharon is president of that board. In April, I took the Art Guild proposal to the Salem Church Council for their approval, and by the way, Sharon was president of the Salem Church Council back in 2019, and the council liked the idea and they gladly approved it. Now, the Art Guild pressed me to submit the recommendation of a living person. They had all these dead people in front of these sites, and they wanted someone living, and preferably they wanted a woman. Who do you think that might be? This past Monday, Sharon reluctantly agreed to be the person and was interviewed by one of the artists of the Art Guild. However, the next day I received a call from the artist, and she said that Sharon is insisting. Now, has anyone known Sharon Stanton to insist? Sharon is insisting that the sign would not be on Frederick Road, but would instead be in the back, pointing to the senior pastor's office. She told the artist, somebody has to keep an eye on these pastors. So before I leave on June 30th, I need to talk her out of it. Please pray for me. For Pastor Carolyn, it was the very wise Pastor Gary Rickel who once told me the job of an associate pastor is to make the senior pastor look good. You have done a splendid job of that and so much more. You are a rich blessing to the Salem congregation. You've been an outstanding partner in ministry, and I will always cherish our time together. And I can't wait to attend your consecration as a bishop one day. Thank you, and thank you, men, for all of your love and all of your friendship. For Pastor Ed Whetstone, what can I say? Ed, we began a relationship as supervisor and vicar, and soon became fast friends. You taught me so very much, and I am so very, very grateful. And well, I think this paper that I brought along with me says it all. If I can find it here. Oh, here it is. So this is from my final evaluation as vicar at Salem. Okay, so this is what Pastor Ed wrote. He wrote, Vicar Dave has absolutely no idea what he is doing, but he is very good at it. So, with that, my career in ministry was launched. So, yes, thank you, Ed. Thank you for that. Pastor Ed also gave me a book, and I want to read the inscription here to you. Dearest Dave, other than Holy Scripture, this book, Preaching to a TV Generation by Michael Rognus, has shaped my preaching more than any other. And Dave, please don't pay any attention to all the buzz about the internet and social media. It's just a passing fad. Finally, Ed. So, Bishop, we know you are an excellent preacher, but we can all hone our craft a little bit more, and I thought you would enjoy this book. I should mention, too, just to say this for the public, when Pastor Ed was ready to retire, I really was, disappointed. I really didn't want to see our relationship end. And not because I didn't want to be senior pastor. That had nothing to do with it. We worked so well together, and we had so much fun. And I was really trying to think about sometime where we had a disagreement about something, some church policy or some pastoral care issue or whatever, theology, whatever it might be. And the only thing I could think of was I really objected to your taste in beer. And other than that, it was really it was a beautiful thing. I was really sad to see you retire. Unlike Pastor Carolyn, who can't wait to get rid of me. But I need to say that. Now, there's one other person I need to publicly thank who declined the invitation to speak here this evening. She said everyone was used to hearing her sing, not speak, so she would just gladly listen to all the evening's program. And of course, the person I'm talking about is my wonderful, talented, and gracious spouse, Nancy. It's because of her that I was able to pursue this call to parish ministry. And someone else said something very much like that, and that is absolutely true. And I know that Salem will be missing you very much. You're singing with the choir, you're singing with the Saturday night praise team, your lector communion assistant scheduling, working in the sacristy with Mary Krebs and all the teams after worship, schlepping food from the Chick-fil-A over to the children's home, serving on the worship life committee, and I'm sure I left out a task or two. But for me, without Nancy's steadfast support and encouragement and love, my call to ministry would not have become a reality. So I owe you big time, and let me publicly commit to you what I have privately committed to you, and that is that I will not do any interim ministries for 6 months. Bishop Bull, are you listening? Thank you, Nancy, for always being there for me. And as many of you have reminded me over the years, I married up. And don't I know. And finally, for all of you, wow, this is, Ray Giuliani asked me, how many people were at your retirement party when you retired from Social Security? Yeah, 3. I think you were one of them, Ray.
The other 2.
Yeah. I think we had cupcakes or something. Anyway, No, this is just beyond wonderful, and just your mere presence here, but all these kind words, these gifts, the food, the fun, the skits, everything, it's great. My heart is very, very full. I can just tell you my heart is very full. And I will miss all of you so, so very much. You won't know how much I miss you. But please know this. You can always count on my prayers. I will be praying for you. I know Nancy will be too. I will be praying for you. I will be praying for your life as a congregation. And know this, that Salem's best days lie ahead. Thank you. God's blessing to you.